Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 8 of the Wulong Talks podcast. Thanks a lot for tuning in if you're tuning in now. And if you're listening to the audio broadcast that we do now via SoundCloud, then pat yourself on the back and thank you for following us. Tonight's a really special podcast because we've got a very, very special guest who's joined us for this podcast to tell us a bit about what he does. We're joined by Nigel from Mayamada. Now, Mayamada may be a brand that you're not quite familiar with at the moment, but hopefully by the end of this podcast, you'll be desperate to go out there and check them out because what they're doing is really, really interesting. So, Nigel, thanks
Hi.
for joining us, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure, man. I mean, from the moment that Richard and I first met you a few years ago, back in the MCM Comic Con, I think it was.
Yeah.
We were really keen to get you on board, just because it was so interesting to hear a little bit about how you all got started, and what kind of Mayamada means to you, and the way that the brand has grown as well, because it seems to have grown dramatically from the outside anyway. So it's really, really interesting to kind of get your perspective on things. So thanks a lot for coming around, man. Okay, what we'll do is we'll start off quickly with a bit of news, as we usually do. The trailer for the Ghost in the Shell adaptation was released today, which is quite fitting, given that we're basing today's podcast around anime and manga particularly. I haven't watched the trailer yet, but Alvin and Richard have done. So, Richard, did you want to give some views on kind of what you thought of the trailer and the 10-second clips that they've been releasing for that?
Yeah, sure. Well, the first thing, in fact, hey guys.
Hi.
Well, the first thing that I really, really found interesting, and I thought was like an ingenious plan, is that they didn't release just one long trailer. They released, I think, 5 10-second trailers. So like separate trailers, like just teasers, which is like a really good marketing plan. I think marketing since Suicide Squad has literally just people, like the marketing teams are just getting like, wow, like we really need to pull our finger out and really try and push these films. And I mean, I've never really been a fan of the Ghost in the Shell series, like the anime. It's just been one of those ones that I could never really get into. From what I saw of it, I found it really, really interesting, and it looks really, really pretty. I mean, one of the things one of the reasons why I'm interested in it as well is because my cousin's starring in it. She's in actually one of the teaser trailers, and her name's Adra.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I mean, like I said, you can't really tell anything about what the story is for the film so far. It just looks really, really nice. So that's one of two things. It's either going to be a really, really amazing film, or it's going to look really, really pretty like Aeon of Flux with Charlize Theron a couple of years ago, but just be a shite film. But so far they seem to be doing pretty well. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that and just wait for it to come out.
Cool. Alvin, as a fan of Ghost in the Shell, was there anything in particular that stood out in terms of the way that they've kind of honoured the source material, or not, as the case may be in that trailer for you?
For me, it looked like they were more going with basing what they're doing on the first original movie than Standalone Complex or Arise or any of the kind of like graphic novels that they've done. There was one teaser, I think it's teaser number 2, where it's, well, the Major, as they call her in this version only, where she's on a bed and she kind of takes a plug out of the back of her neck, and it literally looks like it's the last shot of the opening credits of the original film. It's literally that framing. It's exactly like it. So the influence there is heavy from the first one. Even the logo that they've chosen is influenced by the first movie. So it seems like they're basing everything they're doing pretty much on the movie. It does look actually all right as well. I mean, obviously we don't really get to hear anything. We don't even see any action. We just see framing of things, and it does look kind of like clinical and kind of artificial in a cyberpunk setting, which is pretty good. I mean, I can't deny that actually it does look decent. now it just all depends as to whether the acting will hold up and as to whether the story will hold up and as to whether they will actually do anything interesting and original and as to whether it'll all come together. But so far, I wouldn't say I'm happy, but I'm like, okay, you're on my radar now.
Yeah, check it
Casting
out.
mistakes aside, I'll check it out, yeah.
Cool. Nigel, I don't know if you got the chance to see the trailer at all today. Did you?
I haven't actually, so this is news for me. But I was interested in hearing that they haven't released a single trailer, but done like multiple ones, and it's like the effect that has on like the marketing. Because I feel in some ways that's done because of attention spans. I guess people need to have short attention spans, so keeping it short, 10 seconds, and getting more out versus a single trailer. I think that's interesting, but I would have to check them out.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that. We're really kind of in the social media generation right now. People really do connect with anything that's kind of done through social media, and the trailer being cut up into 10-second sort of clips is kind of perfect for things like sort of Instagram and Twitter,
Exactly.
where it's kind of like short videos that you can push out through social media. So yeah, that is a very clever way of doing it. I've still got kind of mixed feelings about it because I was really upset with the casting of Scarlett Johansson as the Major. It really bothered me.
Yeah, I did know that controversy.
Yeah, that was a controversy that really rumbled on, and it was disappointing really that they went down that way. But I'm trying to keep an open mind on it, and I guess we'll see what they deliver for us really. But yeah, that was Ghost in the Shell. What else was there? There was also Ghost Rider making his first appearance on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That hasn't started yet in the UK, but some clips have been released publicly for people to view on YouTube and various other social media as well. As you guys will remember from the previous podcast, I'm a big Spirits of Vengeance fan. I'm a big fan of Marvel's darker side and the things that they do, even though I'll admit that a lot of it is rubbish, and it's painful for me to admit that, but there you go. It is something that I'm really interested in, and there's been a lot of good kind of feedback about some of the images that they've posted online and some of the video clips. Alvin, did you check out any of the clips, and what did you think?
Well, yeah, a friend of mine from the States sent me a recording of it, and the whole thing was it was pretty impressive. I mean, it's not exactly how Robbie Reyes was in All New Ghost Rider, but it doesn't really matter. They've just got the main points in there, and obviously his transformation into Ghost Rider was for TV. In fact, just in general, it was really good. There was nothing crummy or crappy or cheesy about it. It was just like there's literally a scene where he's there, all in one shot. You just see his face like transform. His face burns off, and you just see the skull underneath and all that. You can even see a bit of his spine coming out of the back as well. It was crazy. But no, I think this could be a really good season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. if they get the storytelling right as to all the other things that are going on at the same time as well. But no, it was a good start, and everyone seemed happy.
Cool. Well, I mean, hopefully that leads to more. I mean, there's been lots of things flying around on the internet today about where the Ghost Rider character is going. There's been a couple of rumors about maybe he may pop up in one of the Netflix shows, and there's possibilities that he may be tied to the Punisher and things like that as well going forward. So there's lots of kind of room for maneuver with the character. But the fact that it's been quite well received has been really positive, because I'm surprised that they managed to pull off those kind of complex effects on a TV budget. So this may get me watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. again. I don't know. I'll have to think about it. I'll have to see if I can get over my kind of prejudice towards that show. But yeah, it may get me watching. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Richard, did you see the Ghost Rider effects online at all?
I've seen it pop up here and there. I'm actually just watching it now, but as we talk on YouTube, I'm kind of. So, but, I mean, from what I saw, yeah, I definitely have to agree with the same things. Like, for a TV show, yeah, like they really did well with the special effects, especially considering that effects like lightning and fire and water, like there's no halfway. They either look good, yeah,
Yeah.
or look bad. Like it's as simple as that. Yeah, and then you get shows like Manimal where they just look freaking amazing. Right? So, but then the budget runs out because the special effects are too good. From what I saw, I mean, I'm not a fan of Legends of Things, but I definitely was impressed with what they did with Ghost Rider, and I think it pretty much, like Alvin said, back to the comic books of like how I would imagine it to look when he changes. And the thing is, it looks 10 times better than it did in when Nicolas Cage played Ghost Rider, which is saying something now for the
Yeah.
shows now, and what they're willing to do. So yeah, so I mean, as I'm talking now, I'm actually watching on TV, and it actually looks pretty freaking awesome. So I'm impressed, man. I'm definitely impressed.
Okay, cool. Nigel, you a fan of Ghost Rider at all?
This is a show that I missed this completely, so I'm not going to hear you guys talking about it. Because now it's kind of making me interested to go and check it out, especially with, I think, TV in general and particularly superhero shows, like the budgets. They need budgets because they set expectations with the movies. So when you come to the TV, people have expect a certain level. But I haven't seen this particular show, so I can't. But I did have a question though.
Yeah, go
for you
for it.
guys. Just like, what do you think about the way Marvel are do the shows as well as the films?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think I'll let Richard take this one because I know this is a this is a particularly passionate subject for him. So, Rich, Nigel was asking, in case you didn't hear, what your views were on Marvel and what they're doing with their TV shows and their movies in general.
Where do I think they're going, or what's my personal opinion about them?
Or just like how they're building out their world, shows in the films.
You know what? Let's put it this way. I think it's a very, very calculated and smart way in which they're building up this universe, and so they haven't really placed a foot wrong. I mean, the smart thing that they're doing is, which is I'm sure what a lot of people are probably clicked onto now, is that they're covering all corners of the Marvel universe in the comic books, or how it used to be back in the day. For example, like you would have had I mean, the best way to describe it, when they were making the Bad Avengers, and when Norman Osborn was like, okay, listen, we're gonna make the Avengers like, and he was describing like Captain America as like, okay, we need the knight, we need the person who leads, you need the god, so like Thor, then you need the monster, you need like the Hulk and whatever. And so you had these certain parts of the Marvel universe that were specific to the Marvel universe. So with the Fantastic Four, you had like the science aspect in that corner.
Yeah.
Stuff like Iron Man, you had like the technological aspect of that corner. And then with Spider-Man, you had like the everyman who was who represented like New York or the world, so to speak. And I think with the Marvel universe, with the films, they're doing it really, really well. And they seem to be doing really, really well with the TV series as well. I mean, what I would like to see them do, which they don't really seem to be doing as of yet, apart from the small little mentions, is that they need to start trying to tie all these things together.
Okay.
It's going to be a bit too disjointed for me.
Yeah, I feel like they're laying out the foundations now.
Yeah.
And then they're going to start tying things together a bit closer.
Yeah. Well, I hope so. I mean, the thing is, I mean, like we've had 2 seasons of Daredevil. We've had a season of Jessica Jones. So we're kind of
I watched that.
I can't wait for Luke Cage. So I mean, we're halfway through the TV show, the first. Let's call it like the first. Could we say it's like the first phase of the TV shows?
Yeah.
We're kind of like halfway through, but then like with something like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or like on another network, obviously I'm sure that's causing some form of problems where like they might not be allowed to mention certain things, but yet they're still based in the same universe. So I think once they've got all of those little bits and pieces just ironed out, it's literally going to be like, it's just going to be awesome, man. I mean, like people keep on saying this whole thing of like DC versus Marvel, Marvel versus DC, and one's better than the other. listen, the proof is in the pudding. It's not about one being better than the other, or being loyal to one over the other. It's about all of them putting out good work,
Yeah.
and fans. And DC, as much as they want to be different, they still really need to look at like the blueprint for what Marvel are using, and still use it. They didn't originate the blueprint. They just took a blueprint and just did really well with it. So I think if DC were to take a leaf out of that book, really well, because right now they're just skating on thin ice. But I'm really happy with what they're doing.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I think I agree. I like the way that it's coming together. I can kind of see how you can see like the way they're scheduling the films and everything, how they're planning to put the pieces together and bring it together, like the Avengers. They do the individual films, bring it together in the Avengers, and you can see that in the future releases. So I kind of like to see where they're going with it.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Definitely.
Yeah, cool, man. I mean, for sure. I think it's. I think that's kind of the way we all feel about it. Really, is that it's something that's coming together really well. You can see the different components that are all being did into place, and I think it's really only a matter of time before you start to get that full convergence between the television world and the movie world. Although there's kind of, from what I've read anyway, there's a lot of Hollywood politics at play as well between the two different divisions that handle things, between the movies and the TV side. So that's something that they've got to overcome as well. But yeah, I mean, in terms of what they've done, in terms of having like a vision for their characters and for a way in which they've wanted to tell a long-term story, both through television and through movies, they seem to be really mastering it. So it's down to everybody else to play catch up now to try and keep up with them. Alva, do you agree with that?
Yeah, man. Everything that you said has been like on point. It's like since Iron Man came out, it's like when it's come to like how they're gonna do things and how things are gonna tie together, and the next movies that are gonna come out in the phases, it's pretty much been flawless. I mean, the only things I can really criticize is maybe some of the villains in some of the movies have been like on the weaker side, or they just showed up one time and they died or what have you. But other than that, it's pretty flawless. Pretty much, more or less. I mean, even the TV stuff has been pretty good. Yeah, I've not found any of it really substandard. Mostly, I've mostly enjoyed it. So, man, I can only look forward to more Marvel stuff. Like, Luke Cage, obviously, which is here next week, and then obviously we're gonna have Iron Fist soon and all that kind of. I just can't wait. Every time there's a new Marvel thing, I do get excited because I know it's gonna be tight. I mean, like DC, I feel bad for. Because maybe they should have just followed that Marvel blueprint, like you were saying earlier, instead of trying to just like jump in at the deep end, which obviously doesn't work, because now they're like doggy paddling.
It's like they're trying to follow the blueprint now. But I don't know if it's too late. I was just saying, it seems like they're trying to follow that blueprint now. I don't know if it's too late, but.
Yeah. But well, you know what it is, like you said, like they're trying to follow the blueprint now. But like I said, what everyone seems to be forgetting is, like we said, that with Marvel, they started off very, very slow and with one character.
Yeah.
Like if you think about it, when you look at like the Avengers, or like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or like anything else, or like when you see some crossovers, like you might see Jessica Jones and you might see like the Night Nurse appear. You don't blink an eyelid when you watch the Avengers, and they're all like any of the Avengers movies, and they're all in the same room. Like it just feels natural now. Like, hey, there's, yeah, okay. Oh, wait, he's leaving halfway through the film. Yeah, that means he's going to his own film. It feels natural. Whereas, like, when you're watching, like, for like the Justice League, and you see Batman, going around to all these other characters, and you're just like, kind of forced, man. Like, you're trying to make me like these people. I don't even know these people. So, yeah, I think that's that wraps it up in a nutshell. I think just that.
Cool. All right, man. Well, let's get down to it. We've got our guest Nigel here. So, Nigel, I'm going to let you take the floor for a minute. If you want to just let everybody know a little bit about Mayamada, the brand, and how it kind of got started, and where you're at right now.
Okay, yeah, sure. Actually, it's funny because earlier today and yesterday, I've been doing a freshers fair at our college, and just speaking to students. I've like given this pitch like over and over again in the last 24 hours. So apologies if this sounds very robotic. I'm trying to make it not that. But yeah, so I'm co-founder of Mayamada, which is a Japanese-inspired character brand. Myself and my partner Lau, who you guys have met at different comic conventions, we just created our own universe of characters. We've taken like the manga style and created something original from it. So we have our own characters. We've created our own universe, which is a television network, and each of the comics that we write and put out are actually shows on the network. So each one represents a show, and there's a different set of characters, different stories within that. So we do comics, we do clothing as well. So we kind of do the two things side by side, and everything features our characters. So we'll have like Samurai Chef is one of our comics, and we'll have like a Samurai Chef t-shirt, Samurai Chef hat, things like that. So everything mixed together. And then we also do events as well. So we've been doing events for a while actually, since we came up with the idea. But more recently, we started building a gaming event as a way to build a community around our brand. So we do a few things, and it's all under the same universe. So whether it's a comic or a t-shirt, or you come to an event, you get that Mayamada experience. So we've been doing this since 2011. We first came up with the idea for Mayamada, and through different efforts, trial and error, lots of trial and error, we've developed a line of comic books. We've got 3 stories out now. We're working on another one at the moment, and we've got a line of clothing, and like I mentioned, the event. So we're now here, 2016, and we've built some kind of following around our brand. People that see us at conventions, people that come to our events. We've been featured in a few places in Vogue, GQ, and Neo magazine. If any of you readers read that, our comics have been in there. Our events have been in Even Standard and Retro. So we're at the stage of getting our brand out on a wider scale, so people can recognize the brand name all about.
All right, cool. Yeah, but I mean, it's, as I said at the top of the show, it's really interesting to see kind of how the brand has grown. Because I mean, we've only kind of seen, myself and Richard have only kind of seen a snapshot of how Mayamada is kind of growing, but it's been really fascinating to see the way it's just developed into various different campaigns. Could you tell me a little bit about the Be Creative campaign? Because I've seen a lot of stuff around social media for that. So what's been kind of the idea behind that and getting that out there?
Yeah, so like as a brand, we believe in creativity. Actually, as a brand, as people, we believe in the power of creativity and the need for us as a society to encourage more creativity, particularly in young people as they go through school and college. Because I don't know how you guys have found it, but I kind of see people go through school and have their creativity squeezed out of them just because of the way the system is. You kind of you have to learn to take the test to move to the next level, and there's not much room for creativity there. But then you get out of school and into the world we have now, where more people are starting businesses, even within companies, expected to think outside of the box. But we're not preparing young people for that enough. So just in general, as a brand, we want to be people that represent creativity and can inspire other people to develop and embrace their creative talent. So that's where the idea for this campaign came from, Speak Creative campaign. And what we've done earlier this year is we've brought together different creative people, so guys, girls, different ethnicities and different creative talents, and they've all been asked the same question: what does creativity mean to you? And they've been given a bunch of like coloring pens and paint, and at one point glitter. There's a lot of glitter around the place. And then this sign, this message that says what creativity means to them. And by expressing that, by allowing people to express that, we wanted to start a discussion and encourage others to also express what creativity means to them, and then share that on social media. So that's the thinking behind the campaign. And we just started it, and we're working on putting out the images which you guys have seen on social media, and then also encouraging people to create and share their own messages, say what creativity means to them.
Okay, cool. It's just been interesting to kind of follow the whole campaign really in the way it's been put together. The point you made about the creativity not being kind of cherished and nurtured in young people is really pertinent, because I remember a long time ago when I was growing up and I wanted to do drama. At one stage, I was like convinced I was going to be an actor, and it just seemed like when you got to school, particularly because I'm of a certain age, as people who listen to this podcast know. So particularly in the era when I was going to school, it just kind of seemed like you kind of were steered towards more rigid academia and less.
Yeah.
There was much less encouragement towards your creativity. We had art class maybe once a week for an hour. English sort of literature and language was more about kind of teaching you the basics of punctuation and grammar and things like that, without really kind of trying to encourage you to use those things in any kind of creative way. And it was all about kind of getting people to just pass exams, as you said, and it's a shame because there's so many people out there with huge amounts of creativity within them, with lots of ideas and lots of different things that they want to explore, or have always wanted to explore and never really got that opportunity at a stage of their life where really it should have been encouraged. So
no, I agree. I think I was reading a book about creativity in schools, and it came up with an example of Paul McCartney, and it just stopped me because they were saying like he hated music class in school, and that's Paul McCartney. That's like, obviously he turned out okay, but you think the number of people whose talents are going in a sense because of the way like things are taught. And to your point about sort of the hierarchy of subjects, so you've got your science, your English, your maths at the top, and this is the one people try to stay to. And when you want to do the drama, your music, your arts, that's kind of looked at as not serious. But it's funny because I'm someone I actually did engineering in university, so I went down that path and now doing something different. So I've kind of seen the value in both. And for us, it's not saying that everyone needs to be creative and do like dance or do like drama, but it's just saying creativity exists in all these forms, and we need to be more mindful of, if someone has a particular talent in drama and in music, and they're serious about that, we can nurture that, we can develop that, and they can be successful in that path. It's not about saying that's not serious, forget that, do this serious thing. So that's really what the campaign is about, just trying to show awareness that creativity exists in all these different forms, in all these different people.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, it's not, as you said, it's not about trying to get everybody to be an artist, but it's just giving people the opportunity to explore it, so that those who do really kind of find an attachment to the arts in whatever form they come in, whether that be art, music, drama, whatever it is, that they get that opportunity to express that, because you never know what can come out the other side, So yeah, that's very true, and really, really fascinating to hear what you guys have been doing with the campaign. It looks like it's going well, and it looks like a lot of people are kind of interacting with that side of things as well. So hopefully that will bring good things going forward. Lads, did you want to add anything with regards to that as well, Alvin or Rich?
Yeah. Well, look at like basically just saying the same thing about what you guys are saying is, we come from a generation where, like you said, like being creative was very, very stifled, especially if you came from a particular background. Like like Jay, I think even last time Nigel, when we saw it like Hyper Japan, and we were like cracking jokes, like if you came from like an African background or a Caribbean background, and listen, there's one point I wanted to be a stuntman, yeah. Like, now I remember telling my dad that. My dad was like, "What, a stuntman? You can't be a stuntman." Now, if you think about it, like I could have been like a stuntman for like because I know I'm good at my shit. I could have been a stuntman for like Denzel Washington right now, yeah. Or I said I wanted to be like an athlete when when Olympic Christie was really at its height, like the early 90s. My dad was like, "You can't be an athlete like that. That's not a job," And then but I always remember, like like you were saying, trying to nurture these children to to follow their passions and their creativeness and their happiness. I used to have an English teacher called Miss Opolinska, a Polish lady. She's actually an actress now.
Okay.
She's been on BBC Three. It looks like a sitcom about these schoolgirls on BBC Three. I think it was a couple of years ago. There's like a black girl, Asian girl, and a white girl, and it's about them just like just being schoolgirls in secondary school. And she played one of the mothers, or one of the neighbors of like one of the families, and she was like a big Rick Mail fan, and you could tell that she came from drama, but she had to find a job, so she said, okay, let me teach drama and teach English. And she was always trying to push us to be creative, man. And I remember when I look back at it now, beautiful thing, like she just always used to try, and she never forced us to do anything, but if she saw that you enjoyed something, and she was like, yeah, then go for it. And it's funny you mentioning Paul McCartney, Nigel, because I think there's but I know there's a famous story on the internet about when John Lennon was a kid, and his teacher asked him, or the teacher asked him, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
And he basically said, happy. And the teacher said, that's something that's something that you will never have, or something that you can't have, or something like that. And he basically turned around and said something like, well, you're the person in the wrong profession. And it's just that, and it's just that whole thing of like, as kids, like you have this fearlessness and this creativity that as you get older, all these stigmas and and blocks and obstacles start to get put in your way until you forget, until you forget who you are. So like you saying that, you went to university and you studied engineering, that was obviously not your career path. So like, so to see you doing this, it's like it's a great thing, man. Or to see anybody doing what they do, but also like being an inspiration to other people. I salute you. Take my hat off to you, man. So that's what I have.
Definitely, man. I think that's the one thing that hopefully we'll get out of this today is just how inspirational the story is, of the way that you and Lau have been able to construct Mayamada and to build it and to grow it and all through using significant amounts of creativity. That's definitely the part that I hope that people take away from this. Sorry, Alf, did you want to come in and add anything about your experiences creating?
Yeah, I mean, mine's a little bit different from you guys, is because just the school that I went to, like, you know, there was a lot of drama teachers and that who used to encourage. Like, I didn't like drama when I first started it. I hated like being on stage and that, and then slowly got into it. Did a couple of school plays and all that kind of thing, and then I really started to like it. Did it in university as a degree as well. Did it at A level. So I was kind of lucky that like I had people like around me who said, "Look, you can do this," and then like, you know, eventually you begin to believe it and you become confident about it. And I think drama is like a real confidence builder, especially for things like public speaking, because there's kids nowadays that like can't even stand up in a room in front of people and speak. You know what I mean? It's just a room full of people and stuff like that. But yeah, again, art. I enjoyed art, even though I wasn't that great at it either. You know what I mean? And like, obviously, this whole kind of like manga thing that you're doing as well, man. That's like, I've just been looking at like the pictures and that, and it all looks legit. It doesn't look like imitation. It looks like it is. It looks like it is something that's been translated to English that was in Japanese to me. So like, congrats on that, man, because it looks totally authentic. You know what I mean? So, and that's a great thing.
You. We do actually get that a lot at comic conventions where people assume that sort of me or Lau are just some guys like who's selling this stuff. So we kind of now got into a habit of starting our conversation with, this is actually our brand and we create this. And yeah, it's kind of funny, you know, in a weird way, but yeah, just people assume that we've got nothing to do with this and we're just some guys. We kind of have to tell them that actually no, we're the guys behind this.
It's funny because I was going to ask actually as well about what people's, you know, initial reactions are when they see you and Lau, you know, working on the brand and presenting the brand out. I can imagine you get a variety of responses, but yeah, we'll come back to that. But yeah, let's dive into some of these questions. So we prepared a couple of questions for you. Alvin, did you have any questions yourself that you wanted to ask, or do you want to ask them now, or shall me and Richard just jump in?
Nah, you and Richard jump in.
Yeah, okay. Richard, do you have your questions to hand, or?
I don't know, because they're on my phone.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, do you remember any of them?
Yeah. No, in fact, I can remember quite a few of them.
Yeah.
But it might not be like in any form of order, Nigel. I hope you don't mind. But
Yeah,
you know,
cool.
man. So like, one of them was like if you could work with like let's say another artist, or do like maybe a collaboration with somebody else. Like who would you be your dream, you know, to work with?
Oh wow, that is a good question. Another artist.
Or another writer. I mean, but basically in the same vein, like of what you're doing now.
I think so. For artists, actually, this is sort of artist and brand, but there's a brand called Tokidoki, and it's another like Japanese inspired brand with a world of characters, and the guy behind that is also the artist, and I think I have a lot of respect for his brand. And in terms of collaborations, that would be a really cool one. Another collaboration would be cool is so I'm just kind of, the name escapes me. The guy who, one of my favorite mangas is Lupin the Third.
Yeah.
The style of the character and the way it comes out, and that would be great because that would be a good collaboration for a story in the Mayamada universe, to get like a character like Lupin in the Mayamada universe. Although our characters are all animals, so maybe we'd have to like transform him, fit him into a show or something.
Yeah. Okay. No. I mean, the only reason I was asking is literally just because, like I said, like we've discussed before in this podcast, and like when me and Jason have spoken about you, is that you've taken something, like you said, and you've imitated it perfectly, but made it your own. And to tell the truth, I'm a person, I mean, not say that I'm versed in all comic books out there. I'm still quite close-minded on what I read certain times, depending on the day or the week. But the last person I saw who did something what you're doing now was that boom when you had like all the artists that came from Marvel. So you had like Joe Madureira, J. Scott Campbell, and Humberto Ramos, and I think Michael Turner. But Joe Madureira for definite, because literally I think he brought in that Japanese animation style to like American style comic, and literally everybody and their grandmother from that point on was trying to imitate his style. But like I said, like
Yeah,
he took a style and genuinely made it his own. I mean, unfortunately, he wasn't the greatest of storytellers, and you kind of saw that when he tried to go independent and make his own comic book Battle Chasers. But he still took something that was generally a style, a style of art, and made it his own. And so like Alvin was saying as well, that's something that you've done. So like I was literally just saying that that it popped into my head of like if you could work with somebody, who would it be? Because right now, I don't think I know anybody else that's doing what you're doing along those lines. So that's
it's kind of unique actually. It's and again, like our characters being animals, the mix of the stories within this universe. It's quite a big undertaking. I mean, when I mentioned the question about Marvel and how they're building out the universe, that's something that is always on my mind because while I enjoy the films and watch the shows where I can, it's also a case of me taking notes and seeing how they how they plan things out and how this one show links into the other, and then thinking how we can do a similar thing because essentially we're also world building, so we got to think about things like that. So it's like a good learning experience to see what these other guys are doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. I mean, definitely with the books that you've put out so far, you can really see the kind of world building that you guys are doing with the brand, and you can see the way that the characters kind of interact with each other, and the storylines kind of interlink with one another as well. But you're doing it in a way that's very fresh. Richard, I'm going to nick one of your questions. What kind of inspired you guys to choose animals as the main characters rather than, say, the traditional kind of people that you would see?
Okay, so we had a choice like at the very beginning when we came up with the idea. I was trying to think like how are we going to represent our characters, and I think we had a choice of humans, obviously, animals, and I think at the time I also suggested robots or some kind of android thing because I thought that would be cool. So we had a choice, and then we went with animals because we felt that like our thing is about we didn't want people to have to be super into anime or manga to get into our brand, and we felt that if we had our characters as humans, another manga. So for the average person, they look at it, see, and say, that looks like another manga. I'm not into it. I'm not even going to look at it. So we thought we'd be unique and use animals, make all our characters anthropomorphic. And even for those people who aren't into comics or anime or manga, they can look at us and say, oh, there's a monkey with a chef's hat. I get that. That's interesting to me. Let me check this out. So it's just, we thought it'd be a way of being more, I guess, accessible to people. And then you can kind of bring them in and say, here's comic, here's clothing, take a look at, take a look at our brand. But as a way to pull people in and make it interesting, we went with animals.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. The reason why I came up with that question, sorry, Jay, because you asked it. So yeah, sorry. So I just jumped in like quick. Yeah.
No, it's all right, man. It's cool.
Yes.
I mean, as I said, I kind of nicked your question, so go ahead and ask.
Okay.
Take it back.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I take it back. Yeah, okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. No, the reason why I asked that question is because, like you said about it being accessible, that is for like for, let's say people are like a particular style of thing. But for me, it wasn't just it was the whole thing of that. There's no. When you say things, let's say, is it anthropomorphic? Those type of styles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like color seems to go out the window. you know, like certain things seem to go out the window. So like literally, you know, it's all about things like,
Yeah.
you know, representation and things like that. And that's what I found really, really fresh about the characters that you're using when you brought this in as well. The whole thing of
Okay.
like yeah, you could just go in there, and I'm like, yeah, man, I like monkeys. So I'm
Yeah.
not like samurai. I like
Yeah.
monkeys. It doesn't matter whether he's a brown monkey or a white monkey.
Yeah.
He's
No,
just a
that's
monkey.
true. Actually, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we did. Yeah, someone asked us about that at a convention. I think it was a language Japan last time. They were saying like, you know, did you guys do that to sort of sidestep the issue of race? And I guess not speaking directly to race, but yeah, in a way, it was like, yes, we just wanted to remove, you know, just not have that be a distraction. Having said that, in some of our stories, I guess you can kind of tell the characters, like background and the way they speak. I guess that kind of comes to some of our background is in there, but in general, it's just these are characters, and for the characteristics that they display in the personalities, and yes, if you like monkeys or if you like tigers or whatever. So I think again, just on the accessibility side, like you say, it's just just like the characters for the characters.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. No. That's really, like you said. I mean, that's always the thing. Like, there's always going to be some form of background that's gonna
Yeah.
allude to where they're from. Like, for example, like if you watch Thundercats, I don't give a damn what anybody else says. Panthro is black. Yeah, like Panthro, they've got the bald head.
Yeah, sometimes you can tell. Sometimes.
The same thing for Piccolo from what's it called, from Dragon Ball
Yeah,
Z.
Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, yeah.
Like
Those
he did it
days.
the night, like, but you know, you change him up a little bit, and he's accessible to anybody because
Yeah,
obviously it boils to like this essence of the character, like he's a strong man,
yeah,
or he's a leader, or he's a villain, or he's this. So yeah, no,
exactly.
cool, man. That's really really cool.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna jump in with a couple of questions here. Alf, did you want to add anything? Sorry, before we move
Can
on.
I just ask a question before yours?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So Nigel, what's it like, kind of, well, competing with the big boys, and have they taken notice of like what you guys are doing, and has like you got any compliments from any kind of like big artists and writers?
Yeah, actually, we have. I don't know if you guys know an artist called Hugh J. He's someone that's worked with. He's worked with Marvel. He's worked with Disney as well. He's worked on some big things, and he does his own comics and characters. And we met him at a comic convention a few years ago, and he read. So this was when we had the first volume, and I think I sent it to him in like a digital format, sent him like the ebook, and I got a call. No, actually, I sent him the copy of the book. I went away. I came back to my phone. I had like I think 5 missed calls from him or something. I panicked for a bit because I felt that either a bunch of missed calls. I felt that either he really likes what I sent him, or he really hates it and he wants me to stop like right now. That's why it's called. So I called him back. We spoke, and he said like this is the best sort of manga outside of Japan that I have seen in the last 10 years. I just remember that like till now, and forever. Just him to compliment us on that level, and I think on getting feedback from people in a weird way. It's always nice to get that kind of feedback from people who don't know you. So obviously people who know you, they will be supportive and say, yeah, what you're doing is great, and that's fine. Like I accept all compliments. But for people who don't know you, you know, he didn't have to call me. He didn't even have to read the book, but he did. He called me and just said, yeah, this is some of the best work I've seen outside of Japan, and that just meant a lot. So that's the one that stuck out in my head.
Okay, what was that guy's name?
Hugh J.
Hugh J. Yeah.
Yeah, HUW -J. At least that's how it's got it in my phone book.
Okay, cool. Is he on Instagram as well?
No, he's not much on social media. I think he's one of these guys, because I see some artists like they're not just not big on social media. They just do the work.
Yeah.
So he's on Twitter, and I'm gonna Let me see. Because his name isn't UJ on Twitter, so I'm going to find that out. I might shout it out while we're on.
Yeah, well, yeah, no worries, man.
Cool, man. But that's an amazing validation of what you're doing as well for somebody to come up with, you know, with feedback like that. That really must have just been so inspirational for both of you to get like feedback that strong and that strongly positive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's really encouraging. And yeah, I mean, he even recently just tweeted some of our work, just gave us a shout out on Twitter, and that kind of encourages you to do more. You know, that someone who, you know, knows what they're talking about says, yeah, this is good stuff, and keep doing it.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. Alf, did you have anything else? Or good?
Oh, actually, sorry, I just realised I kind of went off on a tangent and missed your actual question in terms of like competing with the big boys. That was the question, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
That was the first
okay.
bit. Yeah.
All right, so let me come back to that first bit. And I'd say that it's when you're creating something new, it's a challenge. It is tough. So, you know, I won't sugarcoat that. It's a tough thing to create something new, especially within like comics, when people are really passionate about, you know, existing characters that have been around for decades. And so, I mean, we do a lot of comic conventions, and we get a mix of people. So we do get people like you guys who sort of see what we're doing and come over and take a look. And you know, that's always the best response. But then you do get people who they look at what we've got, they say, at least in their minds, they say, you know, I don't recognize these characters, and I'm just going to move on. And then we get kind of people in the middle who, it's funny because you'll see people like come to our store and they'll stop, and I think they're kind of searching their memory whether they recognize these characters, and they've got this like puzzled look on their face, and then at that point we kind of, you know, you say, okay, this is who we are, this is who the characters are, and then when they learn that, you know, first of all, they learn that we're not just some guys, we are the creators of the brand, and they're like, oh wow, this is really cool. So I think you do get a range of responses, and it is a challenge because a lot of what we do is basically education, just saying to people, this is who we are, this is what the brand is, and doing that over and over again. So that's the challenge when you're competing against, you know, like other comics, like from Marvel, the Shonen comics as well, and just getting people to stop and take notice. I guess someone who's doing original work.
Yeah, I can imagine that must be a real challenge because we've certainly seen for ourselves at the times that we've been at conventions how varied the response can be sometimes from people. I know you know the artist Joseph King.
Yes, yeah.
We met him
It's really cool
at London. Yeah, really cool. For people watching and listening, Joseph King's work is really fantastic. We're hoping to get him on the show soon as well, hopefully. But we were talking to him about, you know, kind of his experiences at conventions and the kind of things he deals with, and he was saying to us at London Super Comic Con that somebody came over to his stall where he had some of his artwork out, and someone said, "Oh, that's really clever. You know, you've drawn yourself in all of these pictures." So he had to explain to this person, "No, that's not for me. They're actually British music artists that I, you know, given artistic renditions of. They're not all me."
That's brilliant in a sad way.
It is, yeah. It's really funny and also really, really depressing as well because you're like, really, really.
There's so much in that, like,
him. So yeah, I don't know. So yeah, I can imagine you guys do have those challenges to face. And speaking of challenges, I'm going to ask the boring question now. Has Brexit had any noticeable impact on the brand at all? Because I know there's some people I've spoken to within like sort of comic book industry or the arts who are saying that almost as soon as the vote was cast and the decision was made, they had a real tail off in their business. So has there been anything that's affected you guys in that regard?
Yeah, we haven't had a massive effect for us. I think we noticed people, around the uncertainty, unwilling to spend, and sort of going back to, unknown entities. When people, aren't in a mood to spend money, and you're an unknown entity, then you're kind of even less likely to spend with you. So we have seen that a bit in recent comic conventions, but nothing that I would say is a major hit for us, to be honest. So one of the things that did impact me is that actually I was in California when the vote was going on, and I was doing a comic convention shortly after, and I had a lot of Americans. I basically became the spokesperson for Brexit for the UK while I was in America, and everyone was asking, "Oh, you're British?" I'm like, "Yes." Obviously, the accent, the giveaway, and so how about that Brexit thing? And yeah, I was surprised actually. Americans knew a lot about Brexit. Well, one, they knew it was happening, which was more than I guess most people give them credit for. But they were, I was like, "Oh, how's that going to affect you?" And just every so often, I get someone come up and ask. But in terms of like impact on the business, it hasn't been a major impact on us because a lot of our sales come from the UK anyway. Aside from the whole people unwilling to spend, we haven't seen a huge impact.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's this whole uncertainty around what Brexit actually means, particularly for smaller businesses like yourselves and entrepreneurs and things like that. It's clear that none of us really know what Brexit is going to mean in terms of business.
I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have, like, right now we're still in the EU, so, going past that initial shock and outrage, I think the impact hasn't actually been seen yet. So, to a large extent, outside of the panic, basically, and all the projections. So I think it's kind of a case of wait to see what happens when we actually start the motions to, get out and what that means for, especially, trading overseas, which is something we actually hope to do within the next year. So it could be, I'm back here next time saying, "Oh, it's terrible. Actually, wow, it was the worst thing that ever happened." But for now, it's like we'll just wait to see what happens.
Cool. Fair enough. Either if you want to add anything, Alvin, Rich?
No, that's cool.
Cool. Okay, well, that was going to bring me to the next question anyway, which was to ask you about your experiences in the US, because when we saw you last, you were talking a little bit about the fact that you were out in California. So what was it like? I mean, how did you find the convention scene different in America as opposed to the UK? And were the Americans quite receptive to what you guys were doing, or were they unsure about it? Yeah, just kind of your general experiences, really.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to go straight to the cliche of like everything's bigger in America because that was the case. So I went to Anime Expo in California, which happens July 1st or 4th. Like it happens over the Independence Day weekend every year, and it takes place in the LA Convention Center, and it is huge. Like I mean, the biggest convention we have here is like Comic Con, and that's like 130,000, and I think. I don't know, I might double check the numbers. I'm sure it's like double that, but it just takes up so much space, and it was kind of frustrating because I didn't get to see so much of it because I was there. I had some help on some of the days, but yeah, I just had to be behind the table for a lot of it, and it was just a shame I didn't get to see all of the exhibition area or all of the centre. So I think that was the first impression I had of it. It is such a big show, and in terms of the people, the enthusiasm is just yeah, I don't know. It's just like everyone's so. I guess it's American, so people are just really outgoing and like ready to ask questions. And what is this? Like, where does this come from? And, oh, you're British. Where's that? Where's your accent from? What part of Britain are you from? And just like, I think as a foreign person in America, there was a lot of interest. Like when I started speaking to people, and then in terms of is on like just a different level because the professionalism, and I guess they've been doing it. They got more opportunities to cosplay than we have here, but it's just really impressive what people put together. I mean, in terms of the brand, we had you get some of that same, what is this? Who are these characters? I don't recognize them, and I think that when I was going there, I had the expectation that people would still want to know about the brand. So I kind of tried to get out of the frame of mind of Americans just like throw money at things because that's how we see them. And I kind of took it as a way for me to go there and educate people on who I am and what the brand is. So I think it turned out that way, that people just wanted to know more about the brand, more about the products and the characters, but you still had to let people know what it is before they sort of jump on it. I think that was the key thing I found.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I imagine because with the Americans and the way that they kind of consume their entertainment and things like that, you kind of imagine that you would have to, in your case, have to do a little bit more kind of explanation and a little bit more convincing maybe about what Mayamada is about in order to make that connection with them. But I also imagine that if you can make that connection with some of them, then they'll enthusiastically be involved in it. Has that been the case?
Oh yeah. No, definitely. I definitely got that. So like the people who were there were just like I love this, so I'll take that and that and I'm good. Like put it in the bag and I'm off. So I think they are really enthusiastic and the passion is there. And I think for conventions in general, particularly ones in a new market like abroad, you kind of have to build up a reputation. So when I was there, I spoke to a brand called Boomslang, and I don't know if you guys have heard of them.
No.
No, I don't think.
Okay, so they're a cool brand. You should check them out. I think they're three brothers originally from Nigeria, actually, and they've moved to America at a young age, and they've started this anime brand, and they do original artwork and posters posters and t-shirts, all of their own original artwork. So we've been following them for like a number of years now, just like casually seeing what they've been doing. And then it just so happens that when I got to Anime Expo and started, they were like 3 stores down from me, which is crazy because the convention is huge, so they could go anywhere in that space. But it turned out there were 3 down from me, so I got a chance to meet them, and they were just telling me, we do certain conventions and we've been to Anime Expo a number of times and kind of build up, like from where we are now to where we're at the beginning. There's a big difference, and I think that's even more so for me as someone coming outside of the UK. But yeah, like you say, once you build up that reputation, then I think we'll get a lot of enthusiastic support, because we do get sales from the United States. So I think it's just a case of marketing, essentially, just like getting our brand out in that country.
Yeah, makes sense, man. Alvin, did you want to add anything, Mara?
Well, yeah, I'm just looking. You said they're called Boom Slank, yeah?
Yeah, Boom Slang.
Yeah, I'm looking at the stuff now and it's sick.
How do you spell that?
Well, Boom and then SLANK.
Yeah,
Boom Slank. Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I definitely recommend them.
That's a nice suggestion, man. I'm definitely gonna have a look at those guys.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, we'll definitely check those out as well.
They're really cool. They're just like really enthusiastic guys.
Yeah, brilliant, man. Okay, and yeah, well, I guess we've got to ask as well. Japan, the home of manga, the spiritual home of manga. Have you guys had any been able to get any kind of traction in the Japanese market at all, or is that something you're still kind of working towards?
We are still working towards, and that is something where it's almost like, you know, the story where you get the hero character who has to train and he has to acquire certain skills before he can, you know, go to the final boss, something like that. So that's kind of where I feel we're at the moment. We need to, you know, get all our stuff together before we go to Japan and say, this is what we've done with your manga. Please judge us and hopefully you like it. But so we haven't quite got to that point there. But I think having done the convention in California this year, last year I went to France and did a convention there. I think it will be a matter of time before we go, okay, how do we go to Japan in some way, whether it's a convention, whether it's speaking to shops over there, whether it's taking another trip out there for ourselves and doing some scouting. But yeah, we need to make this happen. So it's something we're working on. But yeah, it's just like we just want to be ready for that and figure out the best way to make an impression there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I can totally imagine. As soon as you said like the kind of hero's journey analogy, I immediately thought of possibly my favorite manga of all time, which is Lone Wolf and Cub.
Okay.
I absolutely I adore Lone Wolf and Cub. I just think it's one of the most beautiful, shocking, moving mangas I've ever read, and right at that story's core is this story of the hero's journey, of the journey, the path through hell that I've got his name's like completely gone from my brain after I've just said he's my favorite character. But the journey that Lone Wolf kind of takes and his son Diago will take to get to the end, and you know, I kind of now have this image for those of you who are watching or listening who are familiar with Lone Wolf and Cub, the original series by Kojima and Gozeki. You'll remember in the final book, there's a beautifully drawn scene by Gozeki where Lone Wolf is facing his enemy finally on a beach, and the beach is completely deserted. It's completely quiet. It's very early in the morning. And he's just kind of looking out onto this beach and seeing his enemy off in the distance, and that's kind of what the image that popped into my head of Mayamada on this beach with Japan just off in the distance, and this final journey. So yeah, I can imagine that's going to take a little while for things to fall into place, but it sounds like from what you guys are doing, you know, if you know, touch wood, everything keeps growing in the way that it is, that you'll be ready soon. So yeah, it sounds like a good one. Again, boys, did you want to jump in with anything on those?
No, I'm good with that, man.
Yeah.
I was looking at the boom slank stuff.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Man. Yeah, there's
Cool.
there's some pretty decent people, man. Nice for the heads up on that, Nigel.
Yeah, it's all right.
See, as you know, listeners, that's what we do. We give you recommendations, man, even when you least expect it. So there you go. You got a good one there from Nigel. Was there any specific kind of mangas, titles that inspired Mayamada and what you guys are doing, or basically, what were your favourites when you were growing up? Was there anything that you kind of picked up, any books that really kind of spoke to you in that way?
So I was like, when people ask us a question like what at us, because our response is just usually unexpected, and because a lot of our influences don't actually come from manga in terms of the stories we create. We like to do things differently. Like I said, going back to the question about why we chose animals, like we wanted something that was different, and in terms of writing our stories, we wanted something that didn't just reflect the same manga stories. It's the visual styles like that, but we did want it to be another manga story. So we tried to look outside of manga and comics. And I know for me, I don't want to speak for Lau because he's not here, but a lot of mine come from, weirdly, from drama, from like novels that I've read when I was younger, even novels that I've read as an adult, and like fantasy. And I know Lau's taking some inspiration from TV shows like 24 and just a mix of things. And yeah, we just try and keep it original as best we can by looking outside the source material. So even though for me, I really like Lupin. That's kind of one of my favorite characters. It was the way that story and the character acts and his personality. And when I was younger, I watched a bunch of Transformers, like a lot of Transformers, and got into it through there. Like Dragon Ball Z. I was more of a visual person, so when I was younger, so I'd watch more than I'd read. And yeah, Transformers, Dragon Ball Z sort of got me into it. Then I started, watching other things. But yeah, in terms of inspiration, we try and look just outside of what we're doing or the source material of what we're doing, and get inspiration from just anywhere and everywhere.
Cool. Yeah, that's really interesting. Actually, that you pulled out so many different types of stories and movies and TV and all of those different things. It's really interesting to hear how all of that has kind of shaped what you guys do now.
Yeah, it does surprise people.
Because I guess the thinking for most people would be, you'd name the Battle Royale or or GTO, or whatever. Yeah, Kira, Fist of the North Star, something like that. So. Yeah, it's interesting, and it's funny you mentioned 24 as well, because that was kind of one of the things that stood out to me when I first saw some of the art that I saw for the books you were producing for. I think it was, I can't remember which one it was. I skipped through. I think it was Sirius, and I think in Sirius there's actually I'm trying to remember this specific scene now, and I can't remember the specifics, but you can really feel that. The kind of 24 vibe almost to the way that the story is kind of told and the way the artwork is framed and how everything kind of fits together. So yeah, now you've kind of said that, it's like, oh yeah, like suddenly it all kind of it all makes sense.
It fits now, yeah. So I mean, and it's not to say that we don't know about these things, but it's a case of when you create a story. And actually, I was having this conversation over today, like. The idea of originality is not necessarily coming up with something completely different. It's, sometimes taking what you've seen before and applying it in different ways. So when you're writing stories and the things that you've seen, so whether it's other shows or your everyday life, you put that into your story. So what we didn't want to do is like go and read a bunch of manga and just do that again because that's what we've seen. So we're mindful of watching different things. So I've been watching a lot of trying to catch up on like Disney Pixar films and seeing how they approach storytelling and how they get their message across in their story, and watching other films, reading other books, and just trying to learn from things that are outside of of the source material.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something I completely agree with as well. Because just as a fan, as somebody who kind of consumes these things, my belief has always been exactly the same as well. I never really expect a writer or an artist or a filmmaker or whatever it is to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. You just need to, for me to get interested in it, is to just present ideas that I may be familiar with, but present it in a way that feels fresh to me, that feels different in some way. And as long as you can do that, then for me, I'm usually all on board. And I think that's the thing. I think sometimes people do get a bit caught up in trying to be different, and we've got to be different, we've got to be this, we've got to be that, and sometimes you don't have to. If something works, then go with the thing that works and just kind of present it through your perspective, and then that's where people kind of connect with it.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's more. It's not so much about being different, but it's being authentic, and that if you do that right, that kind of takes care of the different thing. So we just tell stories that mean something to us, and we tell it in a way that that comes out of our imagination, and so hopefully that combination means we put out something that is interesting to people.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely the way to go, man. So yeah, that's good to hear. Guys, anything you wanted to jump in with?
No. It was just really, really cool just listening to how you kind of structure yourself. And I think, like you said, I think that's what a lot of people do. They just decide that they want to be this, and they just focus on that so much so that they forget what they're trying to do. And it's kind of like what you run about, more what you said, Jay, as well, about some people think that, that they need to reinvent the wheel. There's nothing wrong with the original wheel. It gets you from A to B, especially if you've got 2 or 4. So like, and it's like what we said about DC and Marvel, whereas we're not going to have jokes in it because Marvel have jokes and stuff like that. And now essentially they're suffering. But so yeah, I think that's a really, really fresh outlook and take on what you said about looking at different things people normally wouldn't put 2 and 2 together, to get for. So
exactly.
So anybody who's out there, take notes, man. Take notes.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the philosophy. So if you are a creator and you're watching or listening, then hopefully Nigel's words have chimed in with you there, because that does make a lot of sense. Alvin, did you want to add anything, or any questions come up for you?
Yeah, no, that was just interesting hearing that, to be honest, because you never really often get the chance to hear people speak about like their creative process and as to how they create. So hearing, it's not always about like doing something entirely brand new, but kind of taking influences and kind of like adapting it, to your sensibilities and what makes you unique, which is essentially kind of what George Lucas did with Star Wars. He just took like archetypes and then put them all together, and then wrote the script a few times, and then came out with something that was or seemed entirely original to science fiction, which is kind of like what you guys are doing with your manga.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So, yeah, all power to you guys for that, man. All right. Well, I think we've kind of covered most of the questions, to be honest, Nigel. So, thanks a lot for joining us on the pod, man. Before you go, do you want to give a quick plug for anything that you're working on now? And do you want to let people know where they can find you as well?
So I guess the best place is mayamada.com. So just go to mayamada.com and you'll be able to check out our universe. So our characters are on there, different comics. We've got previews of each of the comics that are currently out. You'll be able to see our social media links as well. So that's kind of the one-stop shop for all things Mayamada. So you can go and check that out. In terms of what we're working on at the moment, we've got, you mentioned the Be Creative campaign, and I definitely encourage your listeners and to get involved and share what creativity means to you and join the discussion. So that would be cool to see. So that's what's happening now. We're also working on a new comic for the end of the year, Sirius, and we've already released Sirius issue 1. It's like 20-odd page comic. Working on the volume 1, which will be 100 or so pages once it's done. So that's to come this year. And then we're also working on our next gamepad event, which is the video game event that we do. And I guess you guys have seen what we've done before, and the plan is to take, you know, the next one and future events to another level in terms of the games, in terms of the way we presented, the experience we're providing. So that's something that's going to come in December.
Wicked, wicked. Yeah, I forgot to mention the gamepad events as well. For anybody listening, watching, the gamepad events look really, really cool. It's from what I've gathered, Nigel, it's really just kind of like a social event, but with gaming involved, so that people come together and kind of game in a friendly environment. Is that kind of the gist of it?
Yeah, pretty much. So it's this whole thing we've got of social gaming. So I mean, when we were younger, we played like in the same room. So the same, you know, co-op we had, played a lot of GoldenEye. I just remember that on the N64, and just having that split screen 4-player, friends in the same room, having fun, enjoying each other's company. And, you know, we've now gone to a place where a lot of the gaming is done online. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but we feel that there's still a place for people of all kinds to come together in the same space and meet, be social, have fun around games. So that's the idea behind the event. And yeah, we just want to sort of improve on what we've done at previous events. So we've got a new venue, and we'll be updating our website with like details of what's going to be coming in the future.
Cool. Cool. All right, everybody. Well, make sure you check out Mayamada and follow them on various social media platforms. What I'll do is, once this video is complete, I'll put up some links to their website and to the social media as well, so you can get a gist of what's going on there, especially if you're interested in the Be Creative campaign and the gamepad events as well, because yeah, like you, I remember, you know, playing GoldenEye with friends and things like that, and that was just, you know, one of the great experiences of social gaming, really, that has kind of been lost a little bit, as you said, in our you know, in our online gaming era. Now it's just kind of it's just kind of people chucking racial abuse at each other online. So yeah, you know, it's good to bring back that kind of social element. So yeah, good luck with that, man. And you guys are going to be at MCM Comic Con this year?
Yes, we're going to be at. So we've got, I think, 3 conventions. We're going to be at MCM, Hyper Japan, and also taking a trip to Leeds for Thought Bubble.
Excellent, excellent, cool. All right, man. Well, we'll definitely see you at MCM Comic Con, because we're going both days this year.
Nice.
So yeah, we'll definitely come and check you guys out, man. Alvin, anything you wanted to chime in with, mate, quickly?
What in regards to?
Just in regards to gamepad and to where you're at in terms of social media and stuff as well.
Yeah. So yeah, Nigel, man, what you're doing is cool. I look forward to like seeing what you guys do in the future. I think gamepad is cool as well, because like you said, back in the day it was everyone sat around a couch, winner stays on Tekken 2 and all that kind of thing. But yeah, people listen, you can catch me on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at BigAGL85. No, at BigA85GL. Sorry, I always do that. And yeah, that's it really, yeah.
Cool. And you got a couple of new videos out as well, haven't you, on your YouTube channel?
Yeah. On my Twitter and on Instagram, you can check those out if you want. They're not that great, but you know, I may as well put content up because we've got a camera. So screw it, innit? You know what I mean?
Yeah, might as well, man. Might as well. Rich, did you want to add anything for Nigel and to promote anything? Sorry.
Yeah. Nigel.
No.
Yeah.
Hi.
When we get when do we get some t-shirts? I want some.
Love it. Direct. Okay.
Oh, I
We'll
can
talk.
smell them.
Which t-shirts do you want?
Pardon?
Which t-shirts do you want?
Oh shit! You want to know the joke? The actual thing. I think I've actually got everything you've got.
That's
I
what I was
think.
getting to. Yeah, I was going to say. I'm going to say. I'm sure you've got everything. We need to make
Yeah,
some new.
yeah, yeah, man, yeah. Well, you know me already, man. Whenever we see you, we always bang up that merchandise and the comic book
I
and
definitely
stuff.
appreciate that.
So yeah. Well, everyone knows where to find me. Instagram, Rich Reviews or Rich_reviews. And then also at Wulong Talks, the blog that me and Jay work on, or Jay and myself work on, www.wulongtalks.com. Is anything else? Follow my cousin at Girls Talk on Instagram. That's Adjoa Boa. She's also a model. She's basically a spokesperson for females who have been going through a bit of, tough patches. It doesn't matter where you're from or what you're doing. But she's had a couple of articles printed in like ID magazine and I think for Vice. And she's also the girl that you see speaking to Scarlett Johansson, who asks her, "What is she?" in the Ghost in the Shell trailer. But yeah, she's a humanitarian. So so go give her a follow on Instagram as well. And that's it really. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Like, is there? Um, I'm gonna keep on saying it until it happens. Make sure you've watched Stranger Things, The Get Down,
Yeah.
Narcos is
Yeah.
out, on the 30th. Like, god damn, I'm turning hip hop DJ, yo. This shit is
Nigel, have you had the chance to watch any of those shows yet?
In 2 of the 3 that you mentioned, so I still need to watch Narcos, but the other 2 I have seen, and yeah, they're excellent. Go watch them.
Cool. Well, I can speak for Narcos. I just finished that, and yeah, season 2 definitely delivers. I'll avoid spoilers. I'll write about it on the blog. But yeah, it definitely delivers. Although I'm kind of curious as to where they go now, because I don't know if you guys have heard, but apparently Netflix have greenlit another 2 seasons of the show. And if you kind of know Pablo Escobar's story, then you kind of know it ends quite abruptly at a certain point. And it does that towards the end of season 2. And they kind of give you a hint in the final episode as to where the story is going to go. But it's, historically, from a historical point of view, the path that they've chosen to follow from a storytelling point of view is not necessarily as interesting as or as complex necessarily as Pablo Escobar's story is. So we'll have to wait and see what they deliver on that front. But I finally started watching Stranger Things. I'm on episode 3 at the moment. It is amazing, people. If you haven't started watching it yet, go watch it. The Get Down is on my list. I haven't quite got started with it yet, but I will. And I'm going to a premiere on Saturday to see the first episode of Luke Cage at Empire Live, courtesy of Flicker and Myth, the website, the film and TV website. So, yeah, I'm on a hype for that one. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to that. That should be cool. And of course, I'll come back and tell you a bit about the experience and everything on the next podcast. And well, by the time we record, the whole series should be out. So we'll be able to hopefully get into a nice chat about that as well. All right, quickly before we go, I've got to make sure that I do a couple of big ups as well. I've got a big up my boy Dean, who's celebrating his birthday today. Dean is somebody who's done a few little things for us in the past in terms of helping us with our artwork and our logos, and some of the things that you see pop up on our YouTube channel and on the blog. Dean's a really, really cool person. He's done all of these things for us, without any kind of ask about payment or anything else. He's just kind of done it because he believes in what we're doing. So, Dean, happy birthday to you, man. Hope you have a good one. And you see, I did big you up this time because you were saying I didn't big you up before, but I did. So, yeah, I bigged you up.
We're a witness. We're a witness to that.
Yes, exactly. Nigel is here to bear witness to that. Quickly, also, I want to give a quick shout out as well to a couple of other podcasts. I'm sorry, I've written it down. Got to big up the boys Glenn and Massey from Two Uncool Podcast. It's still one of the funniest new podcasts that I found out there. These two guys are really hilarious. The most recent episode was about their adventures going clubbing for the first time in many years. And yeah, it's just the stories they come back with are just crazy. So make sure you check them out. It's called Two Uncool Podcast. That's number 2 and then Uncool. You search for them anywhere on social media under that name and you'll find them. Glenn and Massey, good guys, man, so check them out. Also, my good friend Cheryl Blue is working on a few projects at the moment. I always big her up at the end of every podcast, and I'm going to continue to do it. She started her Tea and Biscuits podcast again, which is generally about news, about entertainment. It's about gossip, fashion. Basically, it's about having a nice chat with a friend over some tea and biscuits, as you would do. So go and check them out. You can Google Tea and Biscuits podcast, and they'll come straight up. They're on SoundCloud. Cheryl Blue, you'll find her on Instagram and on Twitter. She also has a couple of other projects as well, the Rinse Online, which deals specifically with kind of celebrity news. And she also has another project called Tinted Blue, which is about giving sex and relationship advice to people. Like, we geeks don't do the whole sex relationship thing good, so go check her out. Get some tips from her. She'll hook you up, okay? We're hoping to get her on the show in the future, so stay peeled for that. And finally, I discovered a really good podcast the other day, which is called Unfolded Nightmares. It's by a young lady called Daisy Pipes. They're very short podcasts. They're usually about 8 minutes long, but they're about they're about kind of conspiracy theories, the paranormal, true crime, really kind of interesting kind of stories, basically from American history. So she takes like actual events that have occurred and kind of breaks the stories down within 8 minutes. And if you like that kind of paranormal type thing as I do, then it's well worth a listen. As I said, each one is 8 minutes long, so you really don't have to spend a lot of time with it as well. So please go and check her out. If you look for Unfolded Nightmares on social media, you should be able to pick that up. As I said, it's also on SoundCloud. Right, okay, that's it. Nigel, again, thank you so much, man, for coming onto the podcast. It's been really great to hear a lot about, how the brand is going, and the best of luck to you and Lau going forward as well. And yeah, as you know, man, we'll be right here for you. So whenever we see you at the cons or anything, we'll always be there, man. So good luck
thanks a lot,
to
guys. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, no problem at all, man. No problem at all. Okay, guys, that's it from us. That's the end of podcast episode 8. We'll be back again very, very soon with episode number 9. But until then, we're going to say goodbye. So it's goodbye from me. Rich, you want to say goodnight?
Live long and prosper.
Lovely. Alvin?
Peace out. See you later.
Cool. And it's goodbye from me, man. So see you guys on the other side.